My name's Matt. I'm the CEO of Inductosense. For those of you who don't know who we are, we're a spin-out from the University of Bristol, from the Mechanical Engineering Department, the Ultrasonics and Non-Destructive Testing Group. And we've been going for about 6 years. Although we're a spin-out, we're still actually a startup, and I'll talk a little bit about that. And my presentation is really about some of the journey we've had so far and a few lessons learned, which I guess might be of use to some of you if you're thinking about setting up an engineering company. But before I go into it, I thought I'd give you a bit of my background. So I did a PhD in physics in the late 90s, did a couple of postdoc positions, and then decided that an academic career wasn't for me, and went into industry as a product development scientist, and then into various commercial roles, sales and marketing in sort of semiconductor and photonics-based companies. I then, about 12 years ago, pivoted my career into technology transfer. So I started at the University of Bath and then spent a few years at the University of Bristol. Technology transfer, commercialization, is absolutely an amazing job. You get to see lots of exciting inventions, and you get to set up companies and do licensing and sit on boards of exciting spin-out companies. So I'd highly recommend it if anybody's interested in a career along that route. And having the background of both technical, academic, and commercial is really the right sort of balance to go into that sort of role. And some of these skills you can learn along the way. So I put up some sort of the key skills that you might require for doing a commercialization role, and they're not too dissimilar. Some of them are sort of aligned also with roles that you might get for a CEO of a startup. Communication with customers and building teams and relationships with and various sort of other skills. And some of these skills you can learn along the way as well. I mean, I think the leadership skills are something that I've been developing over the last few years whilst I've been with Inductosense. Particular skill, plate spinning, absolutely necessary to manage a startup. So I'll just give you a bit of brief overview of what we do as a company, our technology. So we manufacture sensors primarily for the oil and gas industry at the moment, although we're looking into other industries as well. Our sensors are battery-free and wireless, and you can embed them into structures. So you can embed them underneath coatings or insulation on pipes. And then you read the data from the sensors using a handheld probe, and it's a little bit like an RFID reader. You sort of bring it close to the sensor and you acquire the signal. And we have different means of taking the data, one being sort of robotic-based solutions and also automated solutions as well. So we have an IoT device, and all of this goes up to some cloud-based software, and the data can be remotely analyzed. And our vision is really to put sensors at places where manual inspectors go around and take measurements at the moment. And on a refinery or an oil rig, there can be hundreds of thousands of these locations, and so we're looking to really deploy this on a large scale, and we're starting to make some progress. So to give you a bit of a overview of the journey we've had, the idea originally came about 10 years ago. So the three academic founders came to me while I was still at Red, Anthony Croxford and Paul Wilcox and Cheng Huanzong, and they asked me to help them with get some funding, and we got some money from Andrew Ray's Impact Acceleration account at the time. And with that funding, they developed some early prototypes, and we went out and talked to customers, and we filed some patents. And then around 2014, a program called iCure, which was being run by Set Squared, that Michelle, I think you were also on as well, we had the opportunity to go for that, and this was an excellent program where they gave you some money to go and talk to customers. And our CTO went out and talked to like 200 people, and we refined a business plan, and at the end of it we had the opportunity to get some money off Innovate UK, and we had a £500,000 funding, which really was the Kickstarter for the company, and the founders stuck some investment in, and our chairman put some money in, and then we were off. And with that money we developed our first prototype, we got some early revenue, and on the back of that we then reached our first sort of value inflection point, and we got some investment. And with that money, we did some field trials, we went through some certifications, we built our first commercial product, and got our first approval with a major operator. And we used that value inflation to get another round of investment at a higher valuation. And then we went through developing another product, which is our IoT product, and further approvals and partnerships and contracts, and our first large deployment had a bit of a top-up from investment, and now we're at a stage where we are deploying sensors in larger volumes and progressing towards profitability as a company. But the whole process took 6 years, and we didn't think it was going to take that long. So I pulled out the business plan that we had back from 2015 and looked at what we said to investors at the time. And I think this blue line is pretty typical for most startups looking for investment. Hockey stick-like curve. By now, we were expecting to exit and all be very rich. And we said to our investors, we only need one round of investment, that's fine, and we'll be able to do this. And the reality was slightly different. The orange line is where we are, and now we're at a point where we're increasing from there and starting to do pretty well as a company, but it's taken a lot longer than we thought. And there's so many things we couldn't sort of forecast COVID back in 2015. And there's some additional reasons why this hasn't gone to plan, and I'll sort of explain some of those in the next couple of slides. One being that there should be a think on the end of that at the top there. But one being that the hardware, if you're developing hardware as a company, it takes quite a long time to do and costs quite a lot of money. This picture shows the technology that we took as it sort of progressed. Within the sort of university lab environment, we got it to TRL 4, Technology Readiness Level 4. As a company, we've developed our first product, and the one in the middle there we trialed out on an oil rig in Baku in Azerbaijan. And that was enough to get trial data, but it wasn't very reliable. And the next product there is our commercial product that we took through to full sort of commercialization with various certifications and testing. And the final product there is our IoT product, and that is certified for use in the highest explosive regions, both on a oil and gas plant. And the key lesson I think we've learned from this as a company is that each of those products took twice as long and cost twice as much as we originally thought and budgeted for. And you think we get it by the third one, but it gets more and more complex as you go along with different board spins and certifications and issues in production and things like that. So always take your costs and double them, and the time frame as well. Another point that sort of led to sort of delays in getting moving is a term I've only recently come across called pilot purgatory. So our technology needs to be trialed by all of the big major operators, and we work with everyone from Saudi Aramco through to sort of BP, Chevron. So they all like to do a trial to get confidence in the technology and to approve it. And about 75% of companies actually get stuck in what's known as pilot purgatory, where it just doesn't go anywhere. And you can do a trial and it runs. And we've had a trial running, it's still going. One on the left there has been going for 4 years. The one on the right went for about 1.5 years, and then we got to deployments afterwards. But there's a few things I think we've learned from what makes a trial successful and get it over to the next stage. And the first one is having a key advocate within the company that you're working with. So somebody that is really going to help you drive that through the company internally. A second one is to be able to define the value proposition, really the business case while you're doing the trial. And the third one is really setting expectations at the start. How long is it going to last? What does it look like? What does success look like to progress from there? My first sort of fourth lesson, is around the markets. I think as a startup, we went out and we looked at every single market. We followed wherever the money was coming from. But as soon as we actually honed in and managed to get to the key application whereby we could tailor the product, and we started to then get some traction. And this specific one was around offshore production lines and erosion monitoring, which is a little bit specific, but there was a clear business case behind it, and we realized a lot of our customers were using it for this application, and so we focused in on that. I think we spent a lot of time at the start being a little bit too diverse and didn't get focused enough quicker, and if we had done, I think we could have got the traction a little bit quicker. on a similar sort of theme around markets, when we started off, we were really focused on the UK market. After about a year or so, we'd heard the term, particularly for the industries we're working in, the UK is in a race to become second. We decided to then look at other markets and to find ones which are quicker to adopt new technology. And Asia was good for us, and we went to Malaysia, and we managed to get our first approval with Petronas in Malaysia, and then some other companies in that region. And then the other companies more globally started to follow. But I think if we'd done that and moved that quicker to the other markets at the start, we might have had a better chance of ramping up more quickly. And then my last sort of key point, I mean, I have, there's multiple lessons I think I could talk about, but is really around the team. The set of skills that I put up at the start is really just a subset of what is required to run a startup company. I mean, the particular skills we have from our CTO, Cheng Huan, absolutely sort of amazing technically, and two of the academic founders who've had the network and the contacts at the start to get us off the ground. Getting good mentors in as well. So all of the guys we have some really good mentors around us. Our chairman in particular is a mentor for me. He's been through the process of of selling companies and growing companies. We've got people we bring onto our board who have experience in particular markets. Faye has an OBE in composites and an extensive network. And the picture here shows a couple of these are our first two employees. Laura there is extremely detail orientated, very good at processes and procedures. We wouldn't be able to go through ISO and get the production lines running without people like her, or her in particular. And Eric he sort of likes to roll his sleeves up and get crawling over refineries, and so he's been leading our sort of application side. But I mean, key to getting us off the ground, I really have to sort of say is the University of Bristol to start with, and the iCure program that we went on through Set Squared, but then also Set Squared itself. We wouldn't have been able to get to the early stages without the support of the entrepreneurs in residence and the program that they run there for new companies. And also we've had some sort of support through Innovate UK as well, and funding. And I could put up lists of investors and other people who have helped us on the way. But you can't do it on your own. I'd like to end there. Thank you.
Questions for Matt? Who would like to ask Matt a question? Right here, please. There's a mic just coming behind you.
Hi, thank you very much. Fantastic presentation, so inspiring. My question is also about skills. So you mentioned one of them being strategic growth mindset. And I know you mentioned mentors and just going with the great team. What are the other things that you can, that can help you to develop that strategic growth mindset?
I don't know how you particularly grow it. I think it comes through experience of working through stuff, and I think particularly as a board, I was not necessarily developing it on my own. It's like we develop it together as a company, and I don't have a clear answer for that. That's a tricky question. Maybe talk about it in a bit.
I think to an extent it's a decision you make, isn't it? You can choose to deliberately embrace a growth mindset, and it's not going to work every day.
Yeah.
But if you don't choose to embrace it, you probably won't.
Yeah.
I think advocating it to others is the best way that I do it. Is I try and then practice what I preach.
Yeah.
But it's not overnight. Yeah. Thank you. There's another question just behind. Thank you very much.
A question on the sector that you are focused on. Have you had pushback or problems with investors because you're obviously started in oil and gas, and what are you doing about that? Because clearly oil and gas is problematic.
Yeah. It's interesting. It was quite problematic a couple of years ago, and then it's become a little bit easier. I mean, there's a lot of money in it at the moment. I think particularly from an investor perspective, they're looking at it from a point of exit, and you don't necessarily want to be an oil and gas company in 5 years or 3 years' time when things are sort of heading towards phasing it out, essentially. We have a diverse range of markets that we're targeting. So although our focus, and we have a sort of focus on key applications where we've got a clear value proposition within oil and gas, we've also got other applications that we're working on across mining, chemical, composites, hydrogen storage, carbon capture. where they're repurposing a lot of the infrastructure as well. So we're planning to be at a point of exit where we're not 100% oil and gas, we're maybe 40% oil and gas, and yeah. But yeah, investors generally are not so keen on it so more.
Right, we better wrap up there. Thank you so much, Matt. That was a really great talk. Thank you.